Hello everybody and welcome to one more video on big units. This time it's my 20mm Polish army. So this is an army that was possible due to more or less a few years ago the release of two boxes of hat industries, artillery and infantry, especially the infantry, which has almost 100 figures inside with plenty of mortars, machine guns, snipers, anti-tank rifles, etc. And also the FirstToFight vehicles and guns, which is nowadays, in my opinion, one of the best brands there is in 20mm in 1/72 scale. FirstToFight has plenty of trucks, tankettes, tanks, artillery pieces, etc., tailored properly for the Polish army, and together with some Germans, of course. And I think their idea is to cover the entire conflict slowly by slowly, which means that there is still plenty of stuff, probably from from uh, from Polish army of 1939 to be released. I hope there are still some things missing here, some more or less administrative, radio trucks and radio trailers and eventually sidecars and things like that. That I hope will also one day be made by FirstToFight. FirstToFight is a Polish brand. It's, as I told you, one of the best there is, in my opinion, of course. Of course, another help that you can have is some scratch building, as you'll see with the train, with the Smialy train. And also another help is what there is already for many years, some of the aircraft that are here, made by Heller, made by Ancor, made by Plastic, and a number of brands that are even older than this land brands that I've told you, both Hat and FirstToFight. Also, there are plenty of 3D prints in PLA. There's also some I took some advantage of my French cavalry to produce to show you the Polish Uhlans, which are virtually the same, exceptuating maybe the color. Everything is the same, both I mean, at least in this scale, of course. In bigger scales, there would be, I think, slight differences. But I mean, in our scale, I think they are perfectly passable Uhlans, and the origin is the French cavalry. I took them out of my 5e Division Légère de Cavalerie that I've showed you some few months ago or years ago, I don't know. So what is here is almost, there's still one battalion to be made, an infantry regiment with anti-tank assets. There is some vehicles for the 10th Motorized Brigade. There are tankettes that can be used both in cavalry, in armored units, even on trains. Cavalry, as I've showed you, plenty of tanks here and reconnaissance vehicles. There is artillery over there. And here, there is the train that I've told you before. There is a small, what is the name of this thing? It's a Tatra T18, if I'm not mistaken. Also to be moved inside on top of the railway, of a railroad, and some aircraft that are here. So this is what is on top of the table. Now, of course, everybody knows this story. The Polish resistance lasted, unfortunately, only for a month. If it had taken more time to stop the Germans, maybe, just maybe, war could have been very different. Eventually, France and England would have moved to the west and would have entered inside the German border, would have forced the German army to withdraw from Poland. Maybe, just maybe, war would have been different. Unfortunately, the Polish were defeated, both by pressure of the Germans from the west and from the east later on, the Soviets. Another problem of the Polish army, in my opinion, at least it's my understanding from the things I read, was that they tried in all battles not all battles, they tried generically in terms of strategies to defend the entire territory, not losing ground. Poland was a new country, even if it was big. They don't do, for instance, like Russians. They The Russians give ground very easily because they have plenty of ground, of course, as everybody knows. Poland, I mean, eager to defend its soil, try to defend everywhere. And of course, Germans took advantage of that because whenever they attacked, the line was relatively thin, and Germans always generally had, especially in terms of mobility and firepower, always had superiority. And against this, Polish soldiers offered a great resistance, caused very big casualties against the Germans. But even so, I mean, they were in the end defeated. So let's see what we have here. So you have here infantry, completely based on the hat industry boxes, both artillery, which gives some nice command figures, radio figures, and then all support weapons and riflemen are coming from the big box with 96 figures inside. Hat industries boxes. There are some usual conversions. For instance, this guy is just marching, but this time his hand is holding a bicycle for the bicycle platoon of the battalion. There is another one which is slightly different. It is called NCO on the box. It's also holding a bicycle. Sometimes bicycles change to a two-man base. With the previous bicycles were hat. These ones are airfix. Command. The mortar is in fact, it doesn't come on inside the doesn't come inside the infantry box. It is scratch built and with artillery figures mostly no, totally. You don't need to have one of these stands in each of the battalions, 9 battalions of a division, because in fact each battalion only had 2 of these things. So I mean, maybe next battalion that I make of Polish infantry will be without this stand. This one still has it. And then there are the rifle, anti-tank rifles. There is the 45mm small mortars, and there is of course the medium machine guns, the WZ-30s, based on the Browning system, the American Browning system. And then the riflemen. I mean, the figures are not, these hat industries, they're not the most beautiful that they've ever created. Oops, sorry. Let's try to focus, okay? But even so, they're very, very passable figures. In terms of FirstToFight, also their infantry, in smaller numbers inside the box, is not also their best achievement. In fact, they make much better vehicles than they do figures, in my opinion. Even if they have some lovely figures. And for speaking about lovely figures produced by FirstToFight, you can see here the Biedkas that transport the MMGs with this very beautiful figure holding the horses' reins. You can see a number of them here. And also against FirstToFight, you can see here the limbers that pull the 37mm Bofors. Oops. Let's try to see if I can. Okay. So this is FirstToFight. This is the cavalry with 3 horses. Limber to pull the Bofors anti-tank gun. And then in each of them, that you can see here, you can also have an infantry. The previous one was for the cavalry. This one is for the infantry. Slightly different, with only 2 horses and with spiked wheels, proper for the infantry. And the figure is a World War I hat industries American with a Revell Marine, US Marine head. And the 37s are here. Everything is FirstToFight. I tried to hide as best I could the boots so they can be used both by infantry and cavalry. One of my tricks. Well, now there is a Fiat 621 with FirstToFight with some hat industries figures, some transport for the 10th mechanized, motorized, regiment, brigade. Well, no, I'm not really sure. Was it a brigade, regiment? Well, I don't know. Well, it is a famous unit that had World War One helmets and all clad in black, like this guy here on this TKD. This TKD is tank destroyer, and only this is a PLA, so a 3D print. The figures are also made from scratch, and also the trailer is also made from scratch. Only 2 of these existed, and both existed on the 10th motorized. Some TKs, some tankettes, some with the Solothurn 20mm, others with machine gun. Two different models of TKs here with machine guns, and the third one with the Solothurn anti-tank gun. Cavalry taken from my 5th DLC, 5e DLC if you want. They will pass as Polish. I'll not make proper Polish. I mean, when I say I'm not sure, but in principle I will not. Some tank companies from older material, like for instance these Vickers with 2 Vickers E with 2 turret machine guns. In fact, one of the persons that gave a big help on how to paint, how to organize, how to do these things was Robert Rashowski. He's one of the experts in the Polish Army of 1939, probably in other periods also. He also is very active on Facebook and things like that. And he's also the guy that wrote a good number of the booklets of the magazines that come with FirstToFight vehicles. So he's a true expert. He sometimes helps me with these things. And for instance, I have a mistake here. I should have intermingled some 1 turret Vickers E's with these 2 turret Vickers. Most of these ones are FirstToFight, and this one here is 3D print. Also 3D printed are these FT-17s. That was still used by the Polish, of course, in more reserve units. Some reconnaissance here with the Ursus W29 here, 3D printed, and some FirstToFight WZ34. Okay, then I mean the most dangerous teeth of the Polish, probably. There were 2 battalions of these. I have 1 here. So 100 tanks in total, very little to face the German Panzer divisions, of course. It was one of the problems of the Polish, which had very good guns, but the best ones were not in that big number that they really needed. So 2 battalions of these were available. And what I try to do with these numbers of tanks, of artillery, is to try to use the maximum number that in a certain action of the war were used, not more than that. So, for instance, making an entire Polish division with these big battalions that the Polish had, with 1,000 men each battalion. It will. I mean, 9 of these will be. I mean, probably won't find a place to place them on top of the table. I mean, in fact, I do this with plenty of periods, but even so, I mean, I'm trying to rationalize things so I can hopefully one day finish many of my the majority of my projects. So at least 1 more battalion of these infantry battalions will be enough to make a full regiment. Well, back to the tanks and to heavy stuff. I think everything was said about this TP battalion, 7 TP. Now for artillery, one of my treasured things is this thing. In fact, I finished them relatively, I think a few days ago only. Yeah, and this is the Schneider 1917 model that you need 1 for. One of the problems of for instance, of the Polish was this: there was only a small battery of these ones in an entire division. So firepower compared to the Germans was relatively short. And even if the Schneider were pulled mostly by horses, 6 horses, I think, a little bit like the French did. In fact, there was some experimental tractors taken from civilian life. I mean, they were in fact in the military, but they were originally civilian tractors, and they were the Bolinder Munktel AK tractor. And so I converted this one. My friend Mario gave me the body of this thing in the middle, also some wheels, and then I made those parts to hold the wheels. I scratch built also this rear part to where the gun will be attached to, a driver, some exhausts, a wheel. I placed a few more things, and it became very close to the Bolinder that Polish used experimentally. And in fact, it is different and makes a funny addition. There's also an Airfix Bofors here with the FirstToFight crew. Here more FirstToFight crew with the motorized 75s with rubber wheels. The 75s are Hat Industries, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. The crew is FirstToFight, and the 4 CPs are also FirstToFight. And there is also a lost. This model of the 4CP is a little bit lost here because in fact it pulled the 100mm guns and 105mm guns that I still don't have. Then there is here some 75s for the infantry with wooden wheels, and obviously pulled by horses. And for instance, Robert Ryshansky also sent me some plans, some very nice pictures of this kind of limber. It became quite Polish, and the guys manning this base are also Hatch Industries. The horses came from a little bit of everywhere. I'm using sometimes Persian hat cavalry and things like that. I mean, sometimes I have too many boxes of those. I will never paint them, so I use them too, and they are in more or less static position, with which they are, and for that they make very good horses for the artillery, like in fact these ones here that are also pulling the 37mm Bofors. Now also if the tractor is one of my favorites, of course the train is also one of my favorites. There's a Drasin, a T18 Tatra, also 3D printed with some changes, with an Hotchkiss gun, scratch built, and the other one was taken out as this model was in fact using. There is a budgeted figure from the Eschi French World War II box. That very strange box that in fact is good only for parts. Then you can use it in Italy and things like that, or in Tunisia, but it was a pity that Eschi didn't release a proper World War II French. Later on, Pegasus and others made it, fortunately. So now for the train. Train is a very cheap. I bought maybe 5 or 6 of them, or 7, I don't know. Some small boxes that were sold on Chinese shops years ago already, and two locomotives make these gun platforms. So you can see there are 2 of them glued, and then all the joints and things are a little bit disguised with netting, some nets. Then the guns themselves are taken from, at least the turrets are taken from the Atlantic T-34-85s, with that very strange turret of them. Finally, they had some proper usage, close to proper usage. So there are machine guns around. So these contraptions that were made were really useful, because they, at least in 2 different battles, they blocked both the 4th and the 10th Panzer Division. Only this train did it, with some help, of course, of other units, but it was a mainstay to stop those 2 divisions. And this is, of course, the famous Smialy. There is the generator here. again, I think two different carriages, with plenty of scratch built stuff, as you can see, machine guns, entrance, I mean, all these aerials, all this is scratch built. There are pegs to unite, as you can see here, each part to the one that is ahead or behind. So this is the locomotive. Again, two different. There is that thing with the coal, and then everything was attached to the locomotive, and it became, I mean, close, of course. And then the rest is, I already showed you. It is the another gun platform. I'm calling it platform, but I'm not sure if it is proper name. I mean, okay. There are also some of these funny things in which you can do like this. Let me see if one of these guys fit inside. This one fits, yeah. Look, so the tankettes can go on top of these, how do you call it? I'm not forgetting the name of these things. Drezines? Yeah, maybe drezine, yeah. And so, and also, it can also be, another thing that can be placed here is FT-17. One of these ones here. Everything virtually is seen, but the aircraft. You have some fighters here. This famous PSL-11. This one is let me. I have a paper here. Let me try to find it. Okay. I think this one is an Encore model. Yeah, exactly. Encore. There is PZL-7 also. This one is Arma Hobby. P7, sorry, P7 Arma Hobby. There are two PZL-23 here. This is the most common that you can find on shops by French brand Heller. And there is a bomber here, one of my favorites, which is the PZL-37. And this brand that makes it is the Plastic. I don't know if it is, I mean, one of the Eastern countries makes it. I don't know if it is Polish or Ukrainian. I'm not sure. And finally, and this one was coming from I think still, I don't know if it was Czechoslovakia or already they split between Czechia and Slovakia, but it was coming from that side. And this was the very old KP. Let me see the name. KP Letov S-28, which was completely useless. So I an aircraft from the 30s, and so I needed something for reconnaissance. I couldn't find any on my places where I was buying stuff. I couldn't find the Lublin R13 or the RWD Chapla 14, which were the two models of reconnaissance aircraft. So I took this Letov, I heavily converted it into a Lublin. Unfortunately, when I was finishing it, I looked at some drawings and images, and I found that, in fact, much better than a Letov. It was much closer to a Chapla. It was too late because in the meantime I already painted and made other details according to the Lublin design. So, I mean, it became a Lublin, but it looks a lot like a Chapla. So, well, in the end, it is a reconnaissance Polish aircraft, okay? And it's like a ballerina. Okay. I think everything is seen. And for the future, I hope to add another infantry battalion. Of course, more transport, more Fiat 621. I don't know if some more cavalry eventually. Some, of course, lance armed, I hope, and a few more artillery still to be made. The rest is, I think, is relatively in good numbers. So I hope you have enjoyed, and see you soon in another video on big units. Bye bye. Cheers.